Sentinel Mindset.
What's up, everyone? We have an amazing guest today. We have Sergeant Jermaine Watt from 31 Division with Toronto Police. How are you doing today?
Doing great, man. I'm happy to be here.
Amazing, man. I was actually in the middle of just walking around the arena last weekend for our event that we did. And then I just saw you there. I'm like, wait a second. Like, this was a big Peel event. And I see Toronto. I'm like, this is amazing, right? And then you were with the former traffic.
Oh, Sean Shapiro.
Sean Shapiro.
That's right.
Yeah, he was down there as well, which was a cool event. And I got a chance to see you. And I mean, for the audience listening, as soon as I saw you there, I'm like, there's a vibe about you, man.
I think it was a Yukon hat.
Yeah, was it? Yeah. I got to get you on the show, man. And just to kind of just dive in, like for yourself, we talked a little bit right now, but just to kind of jump in for people listening, the purpose of what we want to do today, Jermaine, is we want people to get inspired by your story, right?
Yeah.
And then also inspired into to really connect and say, is this something that truly is for me as a calling? But most importantly, because we see so many people that are navigating blindly in their career, or their starting of their career journey, how to get them on the right track, how to get them to make sure that keep this path, you'll do well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that'll be like the gist of it today. But why don't we go? I love origin stories. Why don't we go into your origin story? Like for you, is this something that was always on your radar?
You know what? Yes, it was. I most of my police and family are in Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica. I came to Canada when I was 14. But prior to that, most of my family were in the military or in the police service in Jamaica. So we call it JDF or JCF,
Right.
which is the Jamaican Constabulary Force or the Jamaican Defense Force.
Right.
So that was kind of my background. Did some cadet time there when I was in high school. And then I came to Canada when I was 14 years old to be my dad that was here and started my journey. I remember sitting down with my guidance counselor, telling them, hey, what do you want to do? And how do I get there?
Right.
And I remember saying, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a pilot. I remember telling me, no, that's not for you. Let's go do the trade. Go into the trade.
That's what the guidance was saying.
Yeah.
Do you know what the crazy thing is? Right now in 2025, guidance counselors are heavily pushing the trades because it's the one area, of industry that is really like no one's thinking I want to do I want to be an electrician. I want to be a plumber. No one's thinking that.
And
they don't realize there's some real money in that industry.
There is a lot of money in that industry. My brother-in-law, he's in the trade. Same thing right out of high school. Didn't go to college.
Right.
And he's making way more money than I'm making. So there's nothing wrong going into the trade.
Right.
But that's not something that was my passion at the time.
Right.
That was
but they were pushing that.
But they were pushing that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I spoke to them. I said, listen, I want to do two things. I was an air cadet in Jamaica, and I said, I want to either be a pilot.
Yeah.
Or I want to be a police officer because it was just in my blood. I was always drawn to it. I remember when I was in Jamaica and my uncle would pick me up from school in a police car and we'll drive around when he's doing patrol before he drove me home.
Okay.
And that's something I really enjoyed, seeing the way he connected with people. And I really saw like true community policing styles when he was doing it.
Right.
He would know everybody's name. He would go into a community which was his patrol zone and he knew everyone, the people at the local bar. And, in Jamaica, they do a little things unorthodox.
Yes.
He'll take his lunch break whenever, and he's taking his lunch break at a bar.
Okay.
Having a drink with everyone while he's working.
Right.
But that's something that really, resonated with me. That's something I wanted to do, seeing the way he got to know people. And when I came here, I went to St. Augustine in Brampton, and I remember starting a program for Crime Stoppers with Peel Police. And I started working with Peel Police and got to see how they did things and create a program in my high school. And we had to do 40 hours of volunteer work.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I came up with some idea. How can I do something that's out of the norm? So we used to have soccer game, basketball game, football games with St. Augustine Falcons. And, I'm like, we should do something like event security, right? So I created this event security team.
Oh, nice.
So we got people to volunteer their time. And you know what? My wife makes fun of me now because we have something in the cafeteria. So we did cafeteria security because some guys will steal.
Right.
And it was called me the calf cop.
Okay.
But, she laughed, but they fed me. So which was there was incentives to doing it, but I got my volunteer hours for doing that. So I did that for a while until I graduated high school, but I still did different things. But I also remember commissioner is a deputy commissioner of the OPP. He was the very first police officer I met when I came to this country. I came at 14, and the year out, I came in 1998.
Okay.
And in 1999, I met him in the summer at SENTINEL Park. They're having a July 1st Canada Day celebration. And I see this OPP constable on this motorbike. First black officer I've ever seen in my entire life.
Right.
And he's on a motorbike. And I love motorbikes, right?
Right.
So sure enough, I tried to engage a conversation with him, and he spoke with me, didn't fluff me along, didn't speak. I just want to give him a plug. Rohan Thompson, Deputy Commissioner, retired.
Nice.
And he's also the second black OPP commissioner.
Okay.
First it was Jay Hope, the first black.
Yes,
and I
yes.
was the second.
Okay.
So he's trailblazing, right?
Yeah.
But again, I met with him. He spoke with me, and he talked to me about his journey. He was also Jamaican born, so we had that in common as well. And he ended up setting up a ride along for me with the OPP.
So you're right now, like you're getting true inspiration now, because now you're seeing yourself almost through someone else's shoes.
Yes.
It's starting to become very real right now.
He did. And, didn't shun me. He was great. Like in any place or any profession that you go in or anything that you do, you want to have a mentor.
Yeah.
You want to have someone that can guide you and let you know what you need to do, what road you need to take. And he was great at that. And I remember doing my co-op with Peel Police, with the OPP, and with the Ontario Courts of System. So I got Ontario Court Justice. So I got to see a lot of different parts of law enforcement. And I'm like, this is my passion. I kept being drawn to it. I wasn't swayed to do something else, or I wanted to go fly planes. Yeah. And I remember I was trying to go into the Army and military, and they told me I was too tall, so I couldn't fly the fighters. And I'm like, that was a little disappointing for me. Right. Yeah. So they're like, well, you can fly the cargos. I'm like, no, man, that's not sexy, man. I want to fly those jets. Right. So that was my journey. I said, you know what, policing or being a pilot. And back then, to become a pilot, the price was pretty expensive.
How many hours do you need to do to be? Is it 10,000 hours, something like that?
No. So to get your private pilot license, you need about, on paper, 40 hours, but most people don't really get it in that time. You usually get your license about 50 hours or so. Okay. By the time you finished, especially because of the weather and stuff like that.
And they're pretty expensive on the hourly.
And it's it's relative. It's not too bad. It depends on what you're trying to do. It depends on how you learn, what kind of student you are. I also had a flight simulator that I built in my basement. Nice. And that kind of really helped me, in certain things that I wanted to do, and kind of went over the lesson plans, and that kind of got me, better. Right. So I did that, and again, didn't have the money to afford going to flight school. So I said, you know what? I was young, 18 years old. Yeah. I first applied to Peel Police. Unfortunately, I didn't get hired with Peel.
Right. And just so you know, back then, so this is about what year?
This was 2005 when I first started my policing journey.
So I'm going to probably say that when you applied to Peel, there was no prep test. There was bench press, there was pull-ups, chin-ups, the whole nine.
And I crushed it all.
Okay, so I wanted to stick on that for 1 second. The prep test, for those listening right now who feel that it could be considered difficult, and of course, if you're never training for something, you need to understand, Peel, I think, was the only service at that time that you had to bench press your own weight for a certain amount of points. You had to do a certain amount of pull-ups. You had to run that 1.5 miles around the building. And I did that, man.
And the body fat test, too.
Yes, that's right. But honestly, I'll tell you this. The standards over the years, I know have been dropped and lowered to try to get more inclusivity into the mix. Yeah. But I find that you get true props when you were doing those kind of things back then, because those physicals were really defined.
Yeah, it was hard, and I remember Peel turned me down because they told me I was too young. Yeah. By the time I got to it was 2006, and I had applied to a few other police services and back then we did a GAT-B.
Okay, I remember that.
General Aptitude Test Battery.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I think they transitioned
another
to
difficult
the
one too,
which was very hard one. Right? You never even knew because it was timed, and they had the math section and different sections for different things, and they'll take it away once you're done.
That's right.
So you didn't even know what your percentage was, but until you went home and you got that either a small envelope or a big envelope.
That's right.
So if you got a big envelope, you know you're okay, right?
That's right.
And you had to do that written WCT, the written communication test. Which they gave you like a scenario of a collision, or either on the 407 or the 401 or so forth like that, and you have to kind of
and it's all scrambled, and you got to make of it. That's right. Yeah.
Which what I found that was quite easy as long as you can do. And I had doing mentorship and going through programs such like what you guys do. Just listening and going to YouTube channels and see how people spoke about it and getting hints. Right. And I remember someone telling me time, date, location, then the evidence. Yes. And then give a conclusion. Yes, yes. Right? And you don't have to get it right. You don't have to lay a charge or whatever the case may be. Just time, date, location, weather. Yeah. And give me the evidence. That's it. Right. So if you can find those stuff and you remember those lines, you go, okay, this is the time, this is the date it happened, this is the location where it happened. Right. This is the evidence. You had a car over here, or a car over there, right? Or deer over there, or whatever the case may be. The road was slippy, so you wrote all those down. And I think you had to have like 21 different points in your summary, and then summarize what you had. And most people didn't know that.
Right.
So they did very poorly.
Right.
Right. So once you got your certificate, then you can apply to whatever police service you want.
Right.
Except for Peel.
Yes.
Because Peel didn't accept it back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So for yourself, Peel was the first one.
Yeah.
And then you went and started throwing out your hats now to other services.
Yes.
Now, let's just talk about that. People get rejected all the time when it comes into these processes, especially when you're starting out really, really young. Because the biggest thing that they're going to throw at you is life experience.
That's right.
So do you remember what it felt like when you got that rejection?
At first it sucked.
Yeah.
But I was determined.
Right.
Appeal told me I needed more life experience. And I had a lot of different life experience. I was working for a security company, ADT at the time.
Yeah.
And they were doing some great work when it came to alarm response. Their training was tremendous. I worked at Vista Securities. I did private investigation work. And, I'm like, hey, that's experience. I worked at a courthouse.
Exactly.
I did auxiliary. Like, I
That's
don't
right.
have enough life experience. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they turned me down. And I'm like, you know what? Screw them.
Yeah.
Right. So I went and I applied with York, Durham, OPP. And I got hired with those three services. But I was just waiting. They were waiting for a class, a spot to open up before I can go to the Ontario Police College, or OPC as they call it in short. But then I remember I was at a soccer game. I met Deputy Chief Peter Soley. He wasn't a deputy chief at the time. He was a superintendent.
He's now in Durham, right?
No, he went to Ottawa, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
That's right. I know exactly.
Yeah,
who it is.
but he was when I first met him. He was a superintendent when I first met him.
Okay.
And I was at a soccer tournament, and I didn't realize, but he was also a soccer player.
Okay.
At the time, so got to speak with him, and he saw me. And goes, "Hey, young man, have you ever considered Toronto Police Service?" I go, "Actually, I really did consider Toronto Police Service, but Toronto Police was on a hiring freeze at the time." He goes, "No, hiring freeze is done. Put in your application, man. Put in your application." So I said, okay, no problem. So I had all my stuff prepped from all the police services. So I said, you know what, let me, just put my resume, my cover letter and go into it. So I put in a 3-piece suit, dressed dressed nice.
Yes. Dress for success.
Dress for success.
I'm going to pause you now because I know a little bit of the story you told me. But first of all, anyone listening right now, I think this is going to be super important. We always talk about here, Jermaine, about having the X factor,
That's right.
There's over 9,000 people every single year that are submitting applications to get their paperwork to apply to a service every single year.
Yeah.
And the competition is thick. However, there's been a lot of classes now that have opened up. They're about to open 5 classes, what I'm hearing now.
That's right.
Right? So you have the odds, in my opinion, are starting to kind of get nice to the individual, but you're still competing.
You're still competing.
You're still competing. So this here now is for people to understand why it's so important, what you're about to hear from Jermaine, the X factor in what you do, because you need to showcase why you are better than that person to your left and to your right.
That's right.
It's a competition.
It's a competition.
So I love when you were telling me here now, but go on, tell us what happened. You're in that nice 3-piece suit. You're looking all fine and stuff. Now you open up the door. You walk inside into the.
I remember walking inside there, and
And this is a recruiting area.
This is recruiting. The second floor at 40 College at Toronto Police.
Yeah.
So I walked in. They were quiet. Everybody was. Some other people were there. Some people were wearing like a suit, a shirt, and a tie, but I wasn't wearing a 3-piece suit. I'm looking nice.
Right.
Got my envelope in my hand, and I remember walking in the room. I stopped, I paused, and I worked that room. I just stopped, paused, looked around everyone, and said, "Good afternoon." People just looked up, and you can tell they're a little nervous as well too.
Yes.
Right? Some people were there for their interviews.
Right.
So I'm sure they're in their games. They didn't really give a crap.
How was everyone else dressed? Like, were they like the same thing?
The ones that were doing it for the interviews, they were wearing I recall wearing they were wearing a suit and tie.
Yeah, but the other applicants.
Some that were dropping their application off were just here to just drop off the envelope. Some were, like their jeans and a dress shirt. Some were like, like just they didn't care. They just dropping it off.
Yeah.
So I remember speaking to one of the constables that were there at the front desk, and he went over my element, made sure I had all the paperwork. I think now they do it online, but back then you have to drop it off, which I think they should go back to.
Yeah.
You get to see that person from the front.
That's
and
right.
You kind of really get to see how they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dropped it off, and they went over it, and they said, "Hey, we're having a mentoring session at our training branch in Scarborough. Please come by." I said, "Okay, no problem." And I'm like, "Okay." So I went home, I changed that 3-piece suit, put on another 3-piece suit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I only had like 3 suits.
Yeah.
And I got nothing expensive or anything. I went to that international clothes there. It was like maybe $100 or so.
Right.
But he looked good. Looked sharp.
Yeah.
And I went to our college, and I remember showing up, and I looked around again. You walk the room, you want to see who your competition is, right?
Yeah.
I remember looking around. I go, holy crap, I'm overdressed. Did I not get a memo? So I'm like worried. So I'm sitting down. I'm trying to like be.
That's how the contrast. Much of the contrast is you're coming in dressed completely informal, and you're looking around. It's like people are applying maybe for landscaping jobs or something.
Yeah, there were some people there with just sandals and shirt because again, it was a mentoring session just to find out information about what the process is like, what the interview process was like.
Right.
And I was like, crap, like I'm overdressed.
Right.
Maybe was there a memo that went, no, I didn't get. So I thought I was going to get in trouble. So I'm trying to, not be obvious.
Right.
And right away when the staff sergeant walked in through the doors, the room went quiet. And then this man just signaled me out right away. He's like, you, sir, stand up.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I didn't get a memo. Okay, all right. No, so I'm standing there, awkwardly standing there with my hands, trying to pay attention.
Right.
And just, okay, but I've done interviews with other police services. So I'm like, okay, all right. I don't know what's going on. But this was the other police service. I didn't do that. I just showed up to an office, sat there. They came to the room, got me, and did my interview, and that was it. Didn't do a mentoring session with them at all. But here with Toronto, I'm like, okay, well, this is what they wanted us to do, so I'm going to do it.
Right.
And I remember he's like, you, stand up. And I want every one of you guys to look at this person. Let's look at him. See the way he's dressed? That is first impression. Right. I can guarantee you right now this guy's going to get hired. Look at the way he's dressed. Look at the way you guys dresses.
Right.
And he points like, guys are showing up here with sandals.
Right.
Like, is this how you're coming for a job and this is how you're showing yourself?
Yes.
And that resonated with me. I always remember, that stuck with me.
Right.
Anytime you're going somewhere that you want to impress people, you're going for a job interview, whether we're small bit. And I know some people they think, oh, this job is small. I'm just gonna wear jeans and a shirt. Right. If they don't tell you, I would wear a suit, man. Yeah. You dress for success.
Listen, 100%, like that word dress, so that line's dress for success or first impressions. Yeah. I mean, we hear it all the time, but people don't really understand. Like, you can really make your opportunity or kill your opportunity pretty much in the first 2-3 seconds that you have an encounter with somebody. Yeah. And the crazy thing is that we see a lot of people come in for jobs with our operations, for example, security, and it's exactly what you described. Some come in dressed to suits, stand out instantly, and some of them come in literally they just woke up out of watching Netflix all night, and then they're coming in, and then now what you expect us now to really go deep into. What exactly? You've kind of set the tone already, right? Yeah. And again, the key here is if you're going to be setting that first impression, you got to come in strong. So, I remember we did an interview process with Halton, and they said, dress for the job that you want, kind of thing, right? And the reality is that you also need to know the job. Yeah. So someone might be like, hey, if you want to become a police officer, here's how you should try to navigate around it. So doing research is critical. Absolutely. Did you know that, for yourself when you were putting on these suits? Yeah. Did you have an idea? I really got to kill it because
Absolutely. Even when I worked for my security company at ADT, I wore a suit. Right. Even though you're wearing a uniform, but I wore a suit because again, you're dressed for success. You want to let them know that. I'm here to represent you. Right. I'm here to represent your organization. Right. And when they look at you, are like, okay, you look like crap. Right. In fact, I was just at Dixie Outlet Mall, my wife and my kids, and I saw a person just walked around trying to drop some application off. Same thing. Yeah. Looked like crap. Right. Dropping off his resumes. Right. And I go, at least dress nicely. Yeah, exactly. So, because you're representing that company. And that's right. So you're seeing, if this person is seeing, they're like, they may not even know you may be the best person there is. That's right. But if you look like crap, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, 100%. This is how you're going to look at my company. Yeah. You represent my company. But it also what it shows is that if you're not doing or paying attention to these things that would be identified as small, what else is lacking? What else is going to be looked at like this, right? Yeah. So that's interesting. So basically, you had him single you out in a positive way. Yeah. And then from there, what happened? From there, I went in for my interview and same thing. Dressed sharp, did my interview. Yes. But the way it worked before, I guess, when we did your, I guess they call it the local focus interview and the essential competence interview, the only part I had to do was the local focus part because I already passed with the other police services and you only had to do it once within that year. Right. So I did my local focus interview where they asked me about why do I want to be a police officer? What steps did I take to become a police officer? How did I prepare myself to be a police officer? What do I know about the Toronto Police Services? What's my goal within the organization? Where do I see myself in 5 years? They asked questions like, what do I know about the city of Toronto? And then again, why do you want to work for the Toronto Police Service?
Right.
And they even called me out. I understand that you applied for other police services, which, I encourage people to do, because you can't just put your hat in one basket.
That's
if your
right.
overall goal is to be a police officer, and that your goal and your passion is to serve, depends on where you are and what you want to do, or what community you live near or in, I encourage people to apply to other police service. I'd rather apply to Toronto Police Service because, this is where my soul and heart is at.
That's right.
But again, we as the recruiters, they understand. But how do you answer that question? Well, this is where you do your research. What do you want to do? How did you come up to do this, and how can you get there? And again, in Toronto Police Service, we have over 150 different job assignments. And you can say, this organization, for example, I give out Peel.
Yes.
Peel does this. This works for me. However, Toronto, I've researched these things, and these things work for me.
Right.
So as much as I'd want to work for Peel, this applies for me as well. Here.
Right.
And then say, wherever I get hired is where I'm going to stay.
That's right.
Right.
That's
because this is where I want to do, and this is the reasons why.
Yeah.
But explain that to them. Don't just go, no, Toronto's the best service, and this is where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Then why did you apply to other places?
That's right. And that's great. That's great advice that you're giving, because really what they want to hear is thought process.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Look, they know that, of course, your odds improve when you're applying to other services. But again, how you shape that answer can obviously show them, this guy's really put thought into this. Yeah. And you know what? It makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But you're right. Because sometimes people feel like, let me tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, I applied many, but, I did it because of this. But yeah, you guys are the best service in the way. It's like you can see through the answer. And then you also want someone to have like a genuine aspect about them, right? To be
Absolutely.
Like, this guy's being really real,
And again, like, we expect people to be real. We're not going to expect people to just put their hats in one basket. That'll be pretty stupid if that's what you're going to do. If your overall goal is to be, you want to work as a police officer. And again, it all depends on where your passion is and where your drive is and what you want to do.
Right.
And again, Toronto offers. I'm always going to plug Toronto because I love Toronto. Right?
Yeah, of course.
But Toronto, you have that opportunity to do so many things in such a short period of time.
Right.
And I remember when I started in 2006, and I got on the road, I was able to, I went to a shooting call, a sexual assault call, all in one day. Whereas in most organizations, they won't even see that for several years in their career.
Right.
Right. So again, it all depends on how busy you are. How, when it comes to your development, how they develop you and where you want to do. Toronto has different training programs that they put you through.
Right.
Whether it be a community aspect where you're working through the traffic or neighborhood community officer program, or community policing engagement unit. There's so many different aspects that you can do.
Right.
When it comes to your development. And then it comes to the investigative part of it too, because they want to develop your investigative skill set, where you work in a fraud office or a warrant office or Central Investigation Bureau, or bail and compliance unit, and all are very unique things to your development and what you can do going forward.
Right.
Right. But another thing, some people always ask me, should I take police foundation or should I take something in police? And I always say, listen, it all depends. Right. In this job, the best part about being a police officer is we accept people from all walks of life, different backgrounds, whether they're a banker, they're a landscaper, they play poker for a living, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. We can utilize those skill sets in organization. Right. Because again, we have so many different things that we can put you in. Yeah. If you work in banks, you like fraud and stuff like that, you can go work in fraud. Right. Right. I know they always give you the recruiters give you the sexy ones, like the mounted unit, the K9 on the ETF and stuff like that. But there's so many different stuff in the background. That's right. We have police officers that are locksmiths. Oh wow. Right. Because unfortunately we do investigations where we may have to break into someone's home. That's right. Without them knowing. Right. Yes. So we'll get a general warrant based on the investigation. We might have to go into there and go in and be surreptitious and break the locks. That's right. So we have officers so if you're a locksmith in your previous life, that skill set is something that we can utilize as a police service. Right. Right. Or like if you become a undercover operative, right? There's so many different things. If you're a poker player, for example, right. We can put you into illegal gaming places, right? And you can subvert that type of crime, right? Yes, so that's right. There's so many different things in people's backgrounds that say, listen, we'll take you. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like your pathway to policing is to go to police foundations, right? In fact, I've actually heard that
I mean, I don't know how like relevant the information is to today, but in prior years that some services frowned upon, or not frowned upon it, didn't look at it as like this big, huge, like cherry on top kind of thing, because it was like, we want to educate you and mold you when you go through our training and stuff. Yeah. But I think that the big key here is that you want to demonstrate in your life when you get to that interview process. You want to demonstrate your life experiences. For example, if you talked about like I played poker and I read people and like articulating that, right? Because if you just say I played poker, you have to be able to kind of really flesh it out.
That's right. And you hit the nail on the head. You have to articulate it. Yeah. And that's something that you definitely have to do as a police officer. You're going to have to articulate a lot of things why you do stuff. The decisions that you make, you're going to have to articulate it.
That's right.
Not just sometimes at the very end, but sometimes when you go to the court process, you're going to have to articulate your decisions because the lawyer is going to be going after you and saying, okay, officer, why'd you do that? Because sometimes most of the things that the officers did, it's not wrong what they did.
Right.
They just aren't able to articulate the things that they did.
That's
and
right.
the reasons why they did it. And then if they're not able to articulate it, then obviously people won't believe them.
Yes.
Right. So most of the time they see officers doing things like, they're well within their rights or within the law to do it.
Okay.
But again, when they're writing their memorandum books, they go, oh, on scene, I saw this person. I took him down to the floor and arrested him, and that's it.
Right.
But if you don't articulate, well, why did he do that?
That's right.
Was he doing this, or that?
Same thing with reporting. It's a transferable skill to the reporting aspect of things, because if your reporting is vague, when it gets to a court, hearing, you're going to get dissected completely by legal. So
especially when sometimes the case is a year and a half afterwards.
That's right.
How are you going to remember those intimate details? So if you make very detailed notes, and I always tell these like security officers, make detailed notes.
Right.
Because you may think that's not important now. Yeah, it may be important later, not just to you, but certain investigators, because that investigation that you just did, whether it be small or something big, it can go into something bigger in the very end.
Yes. Right.
Where we have other investigations that are going into that person or the person that's associate to them.
That's right.
So, but if they don't have proper notes,
I'll tell you this, we had a prosecutor on the show and they told us that many practices usually, once a claim has come through, they'll sit on it for up to 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Just because they want to make sure that when they do come out and they start throwing all the, the arrows at you, that you're not going to have access to files or reports. And once they can kind of go through the fact, wait a second, there wasn't even notes, there wasn't a notebook, it wasn't, then it's basically a won case for them, right? So that's absolutely key. Yeah. So you got onto the service, you got on with Toronto. When did you decide then I'm going to get my pilot license?
So again, when I came to this country when I was 14, so that was always on my mind. Yeah. But again, I couldn't afford it. So once I got hired, I started my flight training. Okay. So I got my license now for about 18 years. Yeah. I started my flight training at the same time, and it never, because I've had the amazing privilege last year. York invited us to go on one of their helicopters. Oh,
that's
awesome.
Right. Yeah. I forgot what the name of it is right now, but we went all over York, Newmarket, the whole 9 yard, and we were asking. It was a whole episode. It was a ride along on the helicopter. Quite amazing. But that position that he was, that individual, was a tactical flight officer. That's right. Does Toronto has helicopters?
So we had a helicopter. I forget what year it was, but we actually had a helicopter in Toronto. Okay. And then we did it for a small period of time. But then, unfortunately, a lot of people complained about it being too loud and stuff like that. And then we didn't really have much back end to keep it.
They're bringing them back now, aren't they?
They're bringing it back. Yeah. It's a tool that is very well needed.
Oh, when I saw up there, what I could see what that could do, man.
I was just actually, it was just in October, I was part of an investigation where we were able to utilize York's police helicopter. Right. And we were doing so we shared a border with York, my 31 division, so at Steeles. Yes. And they were conducting an investigation where we saw all these plainclothes cars flying by us. We're like, what the hell is going on? So we call our dispatcher to call York to see what's going on. And they're like, they're following a stolen vehicle. I was involved in several carjacking. We're like, no problem. Well, we'll assist you as much as we can, but we'll stay back and let you do your thing because it's a plainclothes operation. But then they ended up taking down that car. Huge foot pursuit. Right. The helicopter was up. And then we caught those guys. Believe it or not, while we were there investigating those guys and, we're dealing with the properties and the cars and stuff like that, a Dodge Ram pickup truck that was stolen comes up into our crime scene. Wow. It was crazy. Yeah. It was like, he just came right into her hand. And then the guy just quickly stopped because he saw the police light. Yeah. we have a ALPR, those or license plate readers that
Yes.
went off, and the camera went off. Says, "Hey, you have a stolen car."
Yeah.
And surely enough, that vehicle is also involved in a carjacking.
Wow.
And not even associated to those people that we just investigated. Just
Yeah.
something random at 2:00 in the morning.
Right.
And thankfully, York had their chopper up. So we started following that vehicle. We strategically followed it. We asked our dispatcher, "Hey, is York still up there?" Like, yeah, we got the car. So that allowed us to stay back. So we didn't have to pursue the person.
right.
We have to push the person.
Yeah.
So we strategically followed the person in the car. We tracked them to an underground, which is what we want to do. Like, our goal is to maintain public safety.
Right.
We really don't want to pursue people. We really want to ensure that they were safe. So we follow our standard protocols when it came to strategically following our pursuit practices. And we want to give them a lot of room. Right? And that allows that person to not feel pressured, not speed, and hopefully get out the car, dump, and run. Because we want them on foot.
Right.
Then we can utilize our canine and stuff like that and create a
it.
perimeter and then get them that way. And thankfully, everything worked. It was just a perfect recipe. We had a canine available. We had a helicopter available.
Nice.
And we tracked them down the underground, and boom, foot pursuit, we got them. Like,
Yeah.
literally, as soon as they start running, we were able to take them down.
You know what's funny? When I was up there, we actually, in the middle of our ride along, a call came in with the OPP, right?
Oh, wow.
And to see what I saw, I think people need to understand, if you ever get under the magnifying glass of a helicopter, you're not escaping.
No.
Like, there's no escape. And the equipment they have down there that you can like the not the radar detectors, the night vision stuff they have. Like, you have eyes everywhere. It's insane what you see up there.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So when that comes back here, would you be like,
So we actually have a position open up for a tactical officer and for a sergeant, but I don't think I'm going to be applying yet.
No,
so that's, you know what? It's work.
Yeah.
And for me right now, I just want to do for fun. Like, I'm doing the recreation for fun, and I'm not.
So you'll just rent it. You'll just go and get a little rental from Buttonville Airport or something like that, and
so I fly out of Brampton. So I rent their Cessna's 172s there. I also fly different class of aircrafts. I'm not really. I don't have my helicopter license. It's a different license.
Yeah.
Similar test, but different. Way of handling like that aircraft system.
Right.
So I'm not well versed in helicopters, but I've ridden in a helicopter before. They're very practical. It's a great tool.
Yeah.
Those people, I lift my hats off to those pilots because they're amazing.
Right.
I fly fixed wings. I can, you give me a 737, I can fly that no problem.
Wow.
Helicopters, no, I can't do it.
Okay. So if you're ever on a flight somewhere, something happens, you can safely land that home.
Absolutely.
Nice, man.
I'll show you my simulator I have at home after.
Yeah, amazing, man. I love it. My dad, he flew for the airlines, and I just, if you ever get a chance, since I know you love planes and flying, and you get to Saint Martin, there's a place there called
the Princess.
Maho Beach.
That's right.
Have you been there?
I've not been there, but I've watched the YouTube videos.
We had a hotel right by Maho Beach, and you can literally see every 3 minutes a massive plane just flying over, and the tourists are trying to just get blown into the fence, basically, right?
I don't know why I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's crazy. But going kind of back on track right now. Look, you have a great story. How you got inspired. Seeing people that you say, I can see myself in uniform. You had this heart of trying to help others as a protector, wanting to make a difference, and you achieved that. And then on top of that, it wasn't just like you came in. You came in, and then you started growing within the position.
That's right.
And getting to the position where you're at right now, which is sergeant, right? Now, I think this is important for those that are current police officers that are listening to this, because I look at a lot of like professional environments related to sports, meaning as in, the average lifespan for an NBA player is 3 years. And when I heard that stat, I'm like, oh my God, 3 years? And the reality is that there's hundreds of names that if you heard their name, you'd be like, who is that person?
Yeah.
And the reality is they achieved an ultimate goal, they got in, right? Same thing with policing or anything else that you get in. Once you get in, you make that ultimate goal. Now it's like, let me focus on growth. You know what I mean? And what I can do, because that's what kind of gives you those opportunities for yourself. When you got in, how long was it before you're saying, okay, after my 4 years, you got to do, after first class constable, I want to start moving in other areas. Were you thinking, I want to start moving to these next levels too?
You know what? I wasn't really thinking that. But again, I was in a position at a time when I started where we had a more senior organization. Now we have a very young organization. But
right.
Back then when I started out, a more senior organization. And most of the officers had already completed all those development that they wanted to. So there's a lot of opportunities that opened up for me. And again, I had mentors. I had Superintendent Andy Singh. I had Inspector Trish Johnson. I had so many more.
Right.
Superintendent Donovan Locke. There's so many more people that mentored me and gave me opportunities because they saw me working. And when I first started, I had a few officers that we had friendly competitions. Whether it was writing more tickets or had more impaired arrest. And when I started, we had a computer system called KIPS, and you had to learn to do that system. Or when we arrest someone, we usually bring them to the CIB, and they take it over. But when you had an impaired arrest, you had to do that entire case from start to finish. So, but if you became very proficient at KIPS, once your time came to go into a development program into the CIB or wherever the case may be, like you don't have to learn because you already knew how to use that system. Whether you're show causing someone, you're doing a prosecution summary and stuff like that, or even something called a 104. You pull someone over for a suspended driver. You have to do that case up.
Yeah.
So it's something similar to if you're arrested someone impaired. So I started finding impaired arrests. I started getting guys that are driving a suspension or no insurances because that allowed me to utilize that system to the fullest capability.
Right.
And then that made me proficient in that system. And again, I was very young. I was very, I was eager to work. I was, I want to catch all the bad guys. I was full of piss and vinegar.
Right.
And again, I had people that I was surrounded by people that they weren't just saying, "Hey, buddy, slow down." They're like, they were encouraging me.
Right.
"Hey, buddy, go ahead. You do what you need to do."
Yeah.
So I had that positive reinforcement to do good and mentor me and say, "Hey, you screwed up here, but next time do it this way.
Right.
Think about this way. Think about that way." And again, it's just having that positive reinforcement, that mentorship that really helped me develop myself. So some people waited 4 years before they actually get to go places.
Right.
I was actually fortunate. And in 2 years, I got an opportunity to work for our Toronto Anti-Violence Intervention Strategy.
Okay.
So I got to work for TAVIS, which was a rapid response team. And back then it was much different from the way the media made it seem now. It's literally you're going after real gangbangers.
Right.
And I can tell you, every night we worked, we would get a gun off the street.
Okay.
Every night.
Okay.
Like it was some really good work. And that work was done through our intelligence-led policing. Right? We got intelligence. It wasn't just go over there and stop these people. No. It's, hey, we've had a shoot in this area. These are the crime. These are the time these crimes are occurring. You go there during this specific time frame. This is where we're having gang interaction. These are shootings are occurring. You go ahead and do that. So I had that opportunity when I was 2 years. And like as soon as I was finished that opportunity, another opportunity opened up. I got to work in a major crime. I didn't have 4 years on yet. I wasn't even the first class constable yet. And I was thrown into that role because they saw, one, that I'm eager. I was getting results done. And my development was far superseded someone that my time frame that would have had on that would be able to do. So again, and that wasn't done by myself. It's just because I was eager to work and I had people to help develop me and say, "Hey, we're going to put you on the right track. So do these things." And that really benefited me.
Okay. Interesting, man. That's amazing because to me, like, again, a lot of people, when they're shaping out where they want to go in their journey, sometimes they're not even doing that, shaping it. Sometimes they're just going by the flow.
Yeah.
Let's kind of phase in right now into navigating and getting yourself ready to make yourself lucrative to a police service. Now, in our organization, a lot of people come in and they have these deep aspirations to get into policing. And what we try to do as much as humanly possible is become that father figure, mother figure / thing where we want to pour into them, make good decisions. You want to make sure you're like dressing to impress and how you want to communicate, how you want to gather your skill sets. But I find that sometimes with a lot of young people that they just generally make a lot of bad decisions, right? And then the key here is to understand that when you're making bad decisions in your very early 20s, and those decisions could be like how you navigate with your current employer, whatever that employer may be, that could basically be the end for you moving forward as a police service, depending on what it does.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about that? Like, how important it is to really, if that is your journey, to be so in tune with it, to making sure that you're not only leaving good impressions, but you're really just excelling in the little that you're given.
Yeah. Like, again, in my role as a supervisor, I see some of the things because, again, we have a younger generation of officers or
Yes.
members that are joining our services. And it's not just with the Toronto Police Service, it's with services across the board. And we see that. One, it starts with, again, your mindset.
Right.
It has to be your mindset first and foremost has to be what you want to do, right? So you got to develop. And I see people that they do volunteer work, but they're doing it just because they just want to get a job,
Right.
right? And it's really doesn't really show that they really care,
Right.
They just no, that's just a tick in the box that I want to get.
Yeah.
I always tell people, find something that you enjoy, like you truly enjoy, that you can do,
Right.
Whether it be search and rescue, you're doing game nights, whatever the case may be, organizing a basketball game, you're doing a big brother, big sister. Be something that you enjoy.
Right.
Go to a community center. You like playing basketball? Go to a community center. Volunteer by doing basketball.
Right.
It doesn't have to be all these fancy things that they think that's going to look good on their resume. It just shows that, hey, I'm passionate about basketball. I'm passionate about being a mentor for younger kids. This is what I'm going to do. So that's one way I always tell people. I like flying. Flying's a passion for mine.
Yeah.
To this day, I still volunteer my time because I created a program for youth using a STEM model. We'll talk more about that later. We'll talk more about that later on. But like I tell people, like, I go develop yourself and have that mindset. Have that mindset about, like we're talking earlier about creating a breadcrumb. Yes. Because when you have their background investigators, they're going to go into every single thing.
So I want people to hear this right now. I actually, a gentleman that used to work for us, I'm not going to say his name right now, but amazing guy. He got a job with PL as a police officer. Yeah. And 2 years later now, because of geographic moving locations, he's now saying, I'm going to go to Toronto. So he's getting ready to do a transfer into Toronto. Yeah. I got a Toronto investigator last week that spent half an hour on the phone with me asking me every possible question made to man. And I said, look, out of curiosity, like respectfully, this guy's a police officer already. Yeah. Why are you going through this process like asking me questions as if it's brand new? Yeah. And that's their process. Yeah. So even people that are looking at switching services, they still have to go through a tedious process because that's how thorough it is. Yeah. And the stuff that they're asking for can go as far as like social media exposure to, what they do with their friends if they're going out in the evening, character building, moral. Like there's a lot of stuff that you guys go into. And when people hear that, they're like, why? Like it scares them, but it should make you very aware that whatever I do, whatever I say, I see people posting on social media and the stuff that they say, I'm like, but you want to be a cop and that's what you're saying? Yeah. That's how you're talking like from a sexuality, like profiling perspective, or you might be cussing a little bit too much, or you're just not portraying yourself in a manner that says, I don't want that guy part of my association.
I know some people think because their private life and their professional life, it doesn't intertwine.
It does.
But unfortunately it does. Yeah. Because again, anything that we do, even as an individual, me as a person in my individual life, it represents what the Toronto Police Service represents.
That's right.
So if I'm doing something that's unsavory, I can tell you, we can be charged. A lot of people don't understand that. Yeah. Like say, for example, I'm speeding and someone gets my license plate and they investigate and they found, you were speeding. Yes. That's a discreditable conduct because that is now, because you're a police officer, that's bringing discredit to
you're
the
held on a higher
as
standard.
A whole, right?
Yes.
So gone are those days back in the day where people think police officers are going to be held accountable.
Right.
No, we are held accountable.
Right.
So like our past behavior is going to predict our future behaviors in some sense. Yes. So they want to make sure that you are representing the very best of the best in Toronto Police Service. I've been in trouble, like a lot of people have been in trouble before. Yes. Depending on what that trouble is. Do you take responsibility for your actions? Are you going to repeat that mistake? Right. Right. So we have to look at those behaviors. And again, when you get in trouble, they're going to post Toronto police officer gets in trouble for this. Yes. They're not going to say, oh, Jermaine got in trouble for this. It's going to go, hey, police officer got in trouble for this. Toronto police officer got in trouble for this. That's right. Just recently I saw in the news where a guy who's been retired for like 20 some odd years, former Toronto police officer gets arrested for sexual assault.
Wow. Yeah. They just threw that title right in there.
Threw that title right. So even though he's not been a police officer for such a long time, they still throw that in there. Right. Right. So, and how does that make that service look? That ruins the trust of the police service. Right. So, and that's what our organization doesn't want. Our police service board members don't want to see. Right. They don't want to see that distrust because the community, like it does erode the trust from the Toronto police and the community, and that's what we don't want to be. We work so hard to build that trust, And as you know, it's like that, and the trust is broken. Right?
Yeah.
So our members want to make sure that you're the best of the best. And again, we understand we're human beings. We make mistakes.
That's right.
That's how we're going to continue those mistakes.
I think that's key. I think like I tell people this all the time, even like in business.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to make mistakes, but it's how you navigate and deal with those mistakes.
Absolutely.
That determine everything, and it's how you respond to it. So I think for people listening, like I know people that have done stupid things in their early parts of their career. The reality is time is what will heal the situation, but also, you know, it's having like that full, like, you know, key moment where you're thinking, look, yes, when I was 21 years old, I did this. And the consequence of that is I lost my job or this happened. However, over the years, I've been reflecting and realizing and growing. And I can see, like when you start, whoa, this guy actually did a complete change around. Like that situation defined him. It evolved him to be something better. So I think that the key here is that you got to be very much in tune, right? And understand that, you know, everything that you do, every conversation that you have to almost act like there's a reality camera on your life.
Absolutely.
And then what you do, someone may catch it and it could hurt you or it can excel you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I call it the triangular effect, trifecta.
Yeah.
And I always tell like the people I supervise now, so any decision that we make, whether it be good, bad, indifferent, it affects the community.
Right.
It affects the service. It affects you as a person.
Yeah.
And this keeps going around.
Right.
So any decision that you're going to make, think about how it's going to impact the service, the community, and your career.
Right. Right.
Before you make any decisions, think about those three.
Right.
Right.
No, that's key.
Our service gives us the knowledge to do what we need to do. They give us the skill set to do it, to make sure we're trained. They make sure they develop us, and that's why we have certain procedures for us to follow.
Right.
Right. We have standard of conducts that we have to follow. We have the Police Service Act, the Community Safety Policing Act that sets out what we have to do and how we have to be trained and the things that we have to do.
Right.
So those are all set out. We have service governance that we have to follow. There's so many things that governs our behavior, governs what we do, and I know like once we get it, they think we are police officers and you have all these powers, which you do.
Yes.
But again, is what you do with that power.
That's right.
Right. How you deal with people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not about, hey, here's a gun, here's a badge, here's your authority, go forth and go screw the community.
Yeah.
That's not all it's about.
So let's focus on that part about the people. Now, I'm pretty sure you might agree on this, but when you first jumped into the police service back in 2006, was it?
Yeah.
So what policing was back then and what it is now in regards to basically, I'm going to call it how the people perceive the police. I know many police officers that are working for Toronto, specifically Toronto, and they tell me, look, it's part of my job to be either, when I say part of my job, it's to understand it comes with the territory now where I will get some form of verbal abuse. Yeah. I will get some, form of, disrespect or whatever you want to call it. But I think that's important because, there was a time where, the career was looked at in so many levels as, you're proud, the community looks at that. But there's been a lot of things that have tarnished police reputation over the years across the world, which now kind of has this like little like canvas, right? Yeah. How important is it for you to be able to navigate knowing you're not always going to be welcomed when you're walking the streets?
Yeah. I think social media has a big part to play with one of those things, having access to internet and having access to those videos. And when I started, I had a flip phone.
Yeah. In
order for me to get to one letter, I had to punch three times. I didn't even have color. I had a contrast on my phone and one small game. Right?
That's right.
And that's what I had to use.
Right. You had to pay for your ringtones back then.
Absolutely. That's right. You're so right.
Yeah.
But I don't really see too much of a change. Again, I'm accountable. I encourage people record me because then they can see how professional I'm being.
Right.
But not again. Sometimes it's our pride. People think, yeah, I'm the police, so how dare you record me? Yeah. Hey, please record me. Right. I always it's almost like when you have a bully and you just take away the bully's power. Yes. Right. Just take away their power. Right. Like for example, I do some consulting on the side, and I teach about when people are there recording you and you're doing something, you're trying to respect the dignity of someone. Say, hey man, can you do me a favor? Can you just go over there and wait for the ambulance for me? And I empower people. I empower them. Yes. Can you do me a favor? I don't mind you recording, but can you just protect the dignity of this person before you throw this in? This is someone's life. Imagine if this was your uncle. Would you want them to be recording on the media? Yeah. Would that be? And they're like, huh. But then instead of like oh, back away.
Yes.
Don't record.
Right.
It's just change.
You're getting the exact same outcome, but you're just changing the approach completely.
The same part of them.
Yeah.
I've been in fights. I remember I was in a fight with this person. He was mentally ill. He was armed with a knife, and he had just almost literally had a knife at someone's neck.
Yeah.
The person was able to get free, but we had to go and subdue this person.
Right.
So we were involved in a fight. And then sure enough, this guy runs along and he goes, "Oh, you guys are police brutality." I go, "Actually, man, can you come in? I need your help. Help us get this guy down. Like he's going to hurt someone else."
Yeah.
And the guy goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, we need your help. Get in here."
Right.
And then the guy's like froze. He's like, "Yeah, you didn't expect that."
Yes.
So, and I turned it around like, just so you know,
right.
When a police officer actually asks for help, you actually, especially if you're capable of helping, you're supposed to help.
Yes, that's right.
Right?
That's
you
right.
get in trouble for it. And he
That's
goes,
right.
"I didn't know that."
Yeah.
I go, "Again, I don't mind you recording."
Yes.
But at this point, I need your help.
Right.
There's 6 of us trying to fight this one person to get him in custody, and you don't want to hurt people.
That's right, man.
Some people think that police officers going out there and they want to hurt.
Right.
That's the last thing I want to do.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Again,
and that makes it difficult. I mean, like when you put your uniform on and you're going out, right? Like it's like you almost have to have that super thick skin, internally secure with what you're doing and knowing that you're doing it for the greater good, and that it's going to come with some form of like, territory that will have abuse tied to it or the whole 9 yards. But because your heart is in the place of I'm doing this to serve and protect, it tolerates everything.
Yeah. I'll go back to what you said about going into those communities where they may not like the police.
Yeah.
Again, I've worked in the neighborhood community officer program, and again, I know how important it is to build trust within a community.
Yeah.
Trust is developed and it's built over a long period of time. It's not just at one time, and because you're the police, are automatically going to trust you or start talking to you or start telling you things. Mm-hmm. And I'll give an example where I worked in a neighborhood, and again, I was a new neighborhood community officer, and I walked around, rode my bicycles, talked to people, rode around the ATVs. People got to know who I am, what I'm about, but not everybody feels comfortable talking to the police.
Right.
And that's because of past experience, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe from where they grew up culturally or where they grew up geographically. Not many people like the police.
Right.
I'm Jamaican.
Right.
Most Jamaican people, they don't like the police.
That's right. That's right.
And I get that.
Yeah.
But that's not all of them.
Right.
Right. It's just a small amount of people that's just very loud.
Right.
But the majority of people actually do trust the police. But they're just the silent majority. Yeah. And I know that and I recognize that. But again, I'm not going to stop trying.
Of course.
Right? So I'll go in certain situations. And again, I remember seeing this one lady, and every time she walked by my partner, and I will say, "Good evening, ma'am. How are you? Enjoy your day." Didn't say nothing. Just kept walking.
Right.
4 months went by. And sure enough, I see this lady. "Good afternoon." Didn't say nothing. She dropped a piece of paper right by my foot and kept walking. Didn't look at me.
Yeah.
I picked up the piece of paper. I opened it up. And she said, "Listen, there's an apartment takeover at this place. This is the license plate of the drug dealer that's doing the drugs. This is what it looks like. This is a person's cell phone number."
Wow.
Yeah. And I was able to pass that intelligence on to our major crime officers.
Yes.
And they were able to do a search warrant.
Yeah.
And got the person. So it was an apartment takeover where, we had an elderly person that's living there. These young thugs went in and took over that person's apartment,
man.
doing drugs. And we were able to get that person back to their apartment.
And she probably was maintaining that cover because she didn't want to make it look like she's friendly with you guys. She didn't want anything on her.
Right. And I get that. Because again, some people are just not going to want to talk to you. They don't want to see you around because they not may feel comfortable. And again, sometimes they don't want a community because if that small amount of that community are taking over that small piece and they don't feel safe, they don't want to be seen by the people who are hanging out by the front of the place and say, "Hey, you're why are you talking to the cops?"
Yeah, man.
I've gone to places where we've taken back parks. People who are doing drug deals, and we've taken back the parks during a certain period of time, said, "Hey, the police presence is always going to be here, or neighborhood officers are going to park our cars. We play basketball with the kids." And we do right in front of drug dealers.
Right. Interesting, man. I'll tell you, what I'm hearing is that you basically, as a servant of the community, you're throwing seeds out of like just hope, prosperity, peace, whatever. And then sometimes over and over again, you're establishing things are going to just slowly start to grow and build, and you build that trust. And I think that's been one thing, media and the whole nine, again, situations that have happened around the world that has been lost as a whole is the trust aspect. Now, you police in 31 Division, which is Jane and Finch area, right? What's that like, man? I mean, obviously, for those listening outside of Canada or outside of Ontario, Jane and Finch, I grew up in an area called Flemington Park, right? So, to me, I know Jane and Finch very, very well. Yeah. But, it's an area that has low income housing, you know what I mean? But you also have crime surges that happen in those specific areas. What's it like policing in that neighborhood? Because you must deal with a lot of trust issues there in general.
Yeah, we do. And again, we have some of those trusts in some of the low income areas, unfortunately. But again, we have our neighborhood community officers who are doing such a fantastic job.
This would be 416 Engage.
416 Engage.
Yes.
That goes there.
Yeah.
Again, they'll go to certain apartments and do certain things.
Right.
And I can't really say too much about it, but they try their very best to see the early warning signs.
Yes.
And, create programs to solve these issues that those communities are facing.
Yeah, man.
I always tell people, I go, I'm just as invested in that community as I am in my own.
Right.
I spend most of my life in those communities than I do in my own where I live.
Right.
I live in Brampton.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can tell you, the only time I go to Brampton is to sleep.
Yeah.
Wake up and I go to work.
Right.
Majority of my life is at work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to be invested.
Yes.
And when people see that you're invested and see that you truly care,
right,
they can tell. They can tell who's a fake copper and they can tell if you're really invested or not. They can tell just by having a conversation. Right. When I first went, I got to 231 last year in February, and I remember sitting out, going out there, and unfortunately, based on where you live or dynamic, there's not as many black supervisors in 31 Division.
Right.
We have a few black officers, but not as lot. Not a lot of black officers there. And our service is trying to do our very best to obviously put people, where they're needed.
Yeah.
But they also understand if you live far, they're not going to throw you in a neighborhood just because you're black or it's going to help the service, because they don't want to put a strain on your life as well. So we try to have that balance. There's 3 supervisors. One's a staff sergeant. He's in charge of our neighborhood community officer program. There's myself, who's in charge of the primary response unit. And then we have a detective that's in our complaints or unit complaint coordinator. 3 black supervisors. I can tell you, most people in the community, they knew who I was before I knew who they were. That's how invested they are in that community.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I showed up, they go, "Hey, you're new here." I'm like, "Really?" They go, "Yeah, there's 3 supervisors now." They were able to name all the black officers.
Wow.
Yeah. They knew.
They had, that's how much intel they did.
Yeah. They knew.
Wow, man.
Right? Thankfully, our superintendents were very engaged and told them straight up too. Like we have our town hall meetings as well. And we give that information out. We say, hey, we're trying our best. We're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this. We welcome people into the service, into the station. We welcome people at community events. We welcome them to come and see what we want to do. Because again, we're there to serve them.
Right.
We can't do anything without the community.
That's right.
At all.
That's right.
Right. So we have to be engaged. Police can't just do it alone. We have to have the community that's engaged to stop the violence that's going on within the city.
Okay.
And that's why I tell the newer groups when they're coming on, don't just give people that drive-by experience, sit in your phone, you sit in your car, that's drive-by.
Right.
If you're doing a report, go to an area where they know there's been shootings.
Yeah.
Park your car there. If you're working with a partner, why don't you guys sit out, start talking to people. Hey, how are you? How are things? What's going on? I'm so and so. I'm Jermaine. I'm new here.
Yeah. Exactly.
What can I do to help you?
Right. Yeah, man, that's proactive policing.
That's
man.
proactive policing.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so many ways. You don't have to be just in a neighborhood community officer program to do that.
Right.
Just be a genuine person. If you're truly there and you're truly passionate about helping people, you're truly passionate about making a difference and making changes, you can do so much just by simple having a conversation. Good morning.
That's right.
I go to Tim Hortons. I know all their names.
Because you make a conscious effort to know that. Yes.
I walk in, I look good, I feel good. I still polish my shoes. My shoes is from the minute I get deported to work, my shoes is polished. I wear my tie. Back in the day when we had a forage cap, I got my forage cap. I walk the walk, I talk the talk.
Right.
Because I'm representing the Toronto Police Service.
That's right.
I don't want to look like shit.
That's right.
Language.
That's right.
I want to look the best. So when people see me come up, they're like, that man knows, that person there looks professional. That person there looks like he means business. He knows, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not just go there like you're a robot.
Right.
Be a human being.
Exactly.
Have that
show
human
empathy.
element. Show that empathy. Show that sympathy. Show us, hey, listen, I understand what you're going about. And I've stopped people for various offenses, driving offenses, and I understand people got to get to where they're going. Some people can't depend on public transit, unfortunately. Some people have to do this. You understand that.
Right.
Yeah. Am I going to give that person our ticket to bring them back down when they're still trying to afford their rent?
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, man, you screwed up.
Right.
Try and get yourself sorted out.
Right.
I know you just have your tail lights out.
Yes.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
Here, go see him. Tell him he'll fix it for $2.
Yeah, 100%.
It's having that connection.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
You have to have that connection with the community.
Right.
You have to have that passion. Right? Be where the people want you to be, because they depend on you.
And you've been on the service for 19 years now?
Yeah.
So, what's amazing about your story is that a lot of people usually in their careers, in general, around the 5-year mark, start getting that itch, right? Where it's like, oh, what am I doing here? And then by 10 years, it's like, oh man, I got like 15 more years to go. I got 20, and then usually what happens is they start getting desensitized, and then disgruntled. And the thing is, in policing, you can't really afford to do that because people are always perceiving you to be. It's like, for example, if my iPhone tomorrow stopped having Siri or stopped having, I'd be like, wait a second, what's going on here? Like, this is not what I'm expecting. And I think that's one of the most difficult parts about being the job is you got to be consistent, right? Because every single day is a new experience for someone to look at a police officer.
That's right.
So your story and the way you're talking and the way you're navigating about this, Jermaine, to me is very inspiring, man, because to me,
thank you.
You're someone that would call a true protector because it's from within, it's in your DNA, it's built in there. And because it's so deeply ingrained, your purpose is so clearly defined. You know what I mean? Of what I need to do right now. And again, the hopes here is that people that are going to listen to this, just like you were inspired by other officers that made you go there, that they can hear your story and be like, you know what, man, like if this is something that I can hear Jermaine doing, I want to walk in those same footsteps, and I know people will. So kudos to you, man, and congrats on everything that you're doing.
I appreciate
and again,
it.
you guys put your lives on the line. People don't understand that. They really, really don't gauge it. But to me, the type of policing and the style of policing that you're doing, I think is something that could very easily become contagious, especially with a younger generation of people coming in.
I always tell people it's what you make of it.
You're right.
It's not just about, getting, like I know unfortunately, some of the new recruits that come on now, I have these conversations with them. I go, no, why do you want to do this?
Right.
Right. And some of them are like, oh, well, it's a job. Well, to me, it's not just a job.
Right.
This is a career for me.
Right.
It's something I enjoy. It's something I'm passionate about. That's something that I enjoy doing. I wake up and I this is what I want to do.
Yes.
I look forward to going back to it.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, what's next?
Right. Right.
What's journey am I going to have?
Right.
And again, some people have different drive, right? Some people say they want to, they want to go work undercover. They want to be a big time detective. They want to go work at homicide. That is their drive.
Right.
Some people's drive is only to work in that police car and go respond to calls. And that's okay.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing the very best of your abilities and you're not disgruntled.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
And unfortunately with this, when you see enough things, sometimes you're gonna have those days where you have some dark days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, reach out to people that are positive.
Okay.
Don't just find people who are negative.
Okay.
You always want to choose your people.
Amazing.
Be around positive people. Be around people that's going to support you. Not just go, don't do that. Don't
Right.
that shit. Sit down, relax.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are naysayers. If I had sat around and listened to those people, I'm telling you right now, I'd be very disgruntled.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not who I am.
Right.
I'm a very passionate person. I believe in the message that I want to send. I believe in the people that's out there in the community. Because again, we're going out there. We're seeing people in their darkest days.
Right.
They're not calling 911 to say, hey, buds, how are you? How's your day going?
Exactly.
How's your family doing?
That's right.
They're not calling you. They're calling you because they need your help.
That's right. In distress.
Right?
Yeah.
So why am I going to go there and I'm going to let my personal shit that's going on in my life affect the service that I'm supposed to provide for these people?
Right. Right.
No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm doing them a disservice. I'm doing my organization a disservice because that's not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
That's not what our service is sending you for. Our service is sending you to give those people a professional service, and that deliver police service has to be good.
Amazing.
Bar none.
Amazing.
Right? So again, it starts by having that mindset. When you come into work, that very first day, having that mindset, that positive mindset, that, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to do the best that I possibly can. I'm going to make sure my service excels. People are looking at me and say, hey, you work for Toronto Police Service? Yeah. I'm proud to work for the Toronto Police Service.
Right. Right.
Right. I don't want to say, oh, you really work for Toronto Police? No. When people talk bad about Toronto Police Service, I go, buddy, get away from me.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Because I know what my service has done, not just for the people within the community, what they've done for me.
That's right.
The services give me an opportunity to excel. The service has given me a roof over my head because, again, if it wasn't for the Toronto Police Service, I wouldn't be able to pay for my mortgage, have a family.
Yeah.
Hell, I wouldn't be able to get my pilot's license if it wasn't for the Toronto Police Service. So I'm very thankful.
Right.
I'm grateful for the opportunities that I got. So not just because they give me a job. So I know after pay back.
Yes.
I got to pass it forward.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And again, it comes back to mentorship. How do you mentor other people, right? So yeah, the higher I go, am I just going to go, yeah, you're on your own? No,
right,
no.
right.
You reach down and you go, hey man, let's get you up too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. And again, that's my mindset. My mindset is continuing to pass that along. Right.
Amazing.
I stretch for there, but I put my hand down and I try to reach.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to bring those people up.
That's it, man.
You got to develop people. I always take that time. I sit around. People come up to me. Hey, I want to be a police officer. I will sit down. I will spend as much time as I possibly can. I'll pass my business card around. No problem. I'll help you. I don't care. It is what it is.
Right. And the thing is, you don't have to, man. Like your attitude could be the complete opposite. Wait a second, my day is off right now. I need to relax. But the fact that you have that from within, it's like you're always building succession planning and finding the next one to come in.
Absolutely.
Man. That's amazing. Let me just as we close the show, Jermaine, can you just like maybe give one tip that you can hear anyone looking to get into the service, a tip that you find that can really give someone that little bit of context in giving them that edge in how to navigate? What would that be if there's one thing?
Look good, feel good, do good.
Okay.
And find a mentor.
Find a mentor.
Absolutely. Get a mentor, or if you go to townpolice.ca, go to those mentorship sessions.
Yes.
Find one of those recruiters, talk to them. See a police officer on the side of the road, talk to them. Always keep doing your research.
Yeah.
Always keep learning. Always keep developing yourself.
Okay. Some powerful words here today. Sergeant Jermaine Watt, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time. I think these are like there's tons of gems thrown in all of this. And look, maybe in a future episode, maybe we just get some GoPros and go on a nice flight and then just have a part 2, man.
Let's do it.
Amazing, man. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, everyone, take care and stay safe. Thank you for joining me in today's podcast. This podcast was created for protectors in the fields of law enforcement, executive protection, security, and anyone looking to level up their mindset. If you are learning from this podcast and you're enjoying it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Sentinel Mindset. That's a zero-cost way to support us. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast both on Spotify and Apple. And on both Spotify and Apple, you can leave us up to a 5-star review. If you have questions for me or comments about the podcast or guests you would like me to consider on The Sentinel Mindset, please post all comments on YouTube. I do read all the comments. Please also check out our sponsors, thearenatoronto.com. The Arena was created to help all those in the fields of law enforcement, security, and all that achieve their fitness goals. I want to thank our producer, Matthew Doyle, and creative supports, Jaslyn Singh, who help me with this podcast every week. We value your feedback and are here to support you. Tune into the Sentinel Mindset every week where we look in the mirror to make real changes and explore what it takes to achieve greatness in your craft.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week and don't forget to subscribe.